What's going on, AfterBuzzers, on this beautiful Monday night? We are here to talk about part 4, the conclusion of Haunting of Hill House. We're covering episodes 9 and 10. Olivia's story, the Red Room, is revealed. We've got a controversial ending that we're going to talk about. We've got a new quiz to tell you guys about, and we've got some news and gossip, so don't move a muscle.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
What's up, AfterBuzzers? We've got our spooky Haunting of Hill House music that we always open with, that I love. We are here to talk about part 4, the conclusion. This is our last episode of the Hill House coverage.
So bummed.
I know, me too. And unfortunately, Krista is not here, you guys. She's not feeling well, so she's going to miss out on this amazing...
The house got to her.
The house, you guys, the house got Krista. Oh no, she's the new Nell. I am your host, Timothy Michael, and I am joined by a beautiful lady. Just one this week.
Just one. Yes. Hey guys, I'm Taylor Gates. I'm so excited to be talking this conclusion, but I'm also so sad.
I know.
For so many reasons.
I agree with you. I want to know your initial thoughts of episodes 9 and 10. But before we do, I do have to open up with a quote like we have been for the last 3 episodes. I specifically like this one, especially since we're covering episode 9 right off the bat tonight. This is from Olivia Crane. Journeys end in lovers' meetings. I have spent an all but sleepless night. I have told lies and made a fool of myself, and the very air tastes like wine. I have been frightened half out of my foolish wits, but I have somehow earned this joy. I have been waiting for it for so long.
Oh,
love it.
So beautiful.
That was a beautiful, I want to say it's a monologue. It's very short, but it's still a monologue.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a very nice ending to her and Hugh's relationship.
Yeah. And just the fact, I don't want to skip too far ahead,
right.
but like lovers' journeys never really end if you love someone.
Oh,
they have such a
great.
Just powerful relationship.
I agree. But we'll talk about that. I want to talk about Olivia's story first. And that's part of Olivia's story, but I want to really get into episode 9 because episode 9 is kind of what we were all expecting episode 6 would be, because you know how they went from Hugh and then all the kids, and then they skipped right to the funeral stuff. We never really got Olivia's story until episode 9, and I could obviously see why the writers did that. How did you feel about the writers doing that and Olivia's story just in general?
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit of a strange choice. Kind of like you said, we kind of expected it to be earlier. The fact that they kind of inserted it between like this huge action, kind of sequence. Like It was a very big cliffhanger, moment of suspense at the end of episode 8. So kind of like taking a little detour to get some background, I think was like a risky choice, but one that definitely paid off and did answer a lot of questions in a very like roundabout way that I wasn't expecting. And Olivia's story, like I obviously expected it to be really haunting because we kind of got glimpses of that the whole time we knew her, but wow, this
is
was
right.
like way dark.
I completely agree with you. And I feel like out of everybody, she was the most haunted.
Oh, for sure.
And that's probably why she, I don't want to say succumbed to the house because, well, no, actually she kind of did succumb to the house. It was kind of her choice, but not her choice. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
they tricked her into it.
Right.
They're like, this is the best way. And she's like, oh, of course. Like, that makes so much sense.
Right.
It's completely rational.
But what's really funny is that even in death, she still thought that she did the right thing. It wasn't like, oh, I killed myself and, oh, now I'm awake. Crap, I killed myself. No, it was, I killed myself. Oh, now I'm awake. Oh, but wait, I still did the right thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
very complicated.
Yes, and that's why I loved her story. I do want to kind of start with the story that she tells to Mrs. Dudley after the whole storm. And they're cleaning up the glass in the hallway, and she tells a story about when her dad died when she was 12 and how she found out about it, and then the raining of rocks. Where did you think that story was going, and what kind of symbolism did you think that was about?
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting just because it kind of gave us the idea of like the supernatural.
Yes.
Like, I mean, that's always been a sort of recurring theme here, but she's like, I'm the one who made it, sort of happen. Like it was reflecting my emotions and things like that. And I think obviously just the fact that it tied in so well with episode 8 with like the hail and like, the window, like that parallel was like really, really eerie.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I love how the symbolism like is very powerful, but it's never too obvious, like too cut and dry. It's always like a little bit mysterious. And so I thought that was a really kind of cool tie-in story that she sort of told her.
I agree. I also love that it was with Mrs. Dudley because we don't necessarily see them in that many scenes together. And there's another one that we're going to talk about in this episode. But I like that they bonded over this because they are very similar, except for Mrs. Dudley kind of, I don't want to say knew more, but I felt like was a little bit more prepared for Hill House than Olivia was. And that's why Mrs. Dudley didn't have the same fate as Olivia.
Yeah, and the fact that like motherhood is such an interesting theme to be explored here, and like you're right, they are similar in ways, but they're also like very different in other ways. Like we've seen in earlier episodes how Mrs. Dudley's very much like devout and sort of more grounded, and Olivia's sort of open to everything and more sensitive. And then I don't know, I think it's kind of like cool to even bring Shirley into the mix because she's like the only, one of the kids who's a mother too.
Yeah.
And she's, I guess, a little bit in the middle of those two, I would say. So I just think that was a really cool theme that they sort of explored with those two.
I agree. I think motherhood is definitely a very strong theme, but only, like you said, with Mrs. Dudley and Olivia, they kind of fell to the wayside with Shirley a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I felt like that was lacking in her character development. We only see, the only poignant scene that I could remember with Shirley and her kids was right outside the embalming room, what do they call it? That room. And she's literally just regurgitating what Theo told her to tell them. So it wasn't like even genuine, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that was lacking for her in terms of the motherhood symbolism in her character, but they nailed it with Mrs. Dudley.
Yeah.
And I just want to talk about the foreshadowing that Olivia and Mrs. Dudley are having this conversation right now, only to kind of be introduced of what happens to Mrs. Dudley and her motherhood, if you will. But we'll talk about it. I want to get into Poppy and Olivia because Poppy was like the driving force on the haunting of Olivia. And if you guys remember the scene in the reading room, one of the creepiest scenes that I thought in the entire series, and it's literally her telling her to kill her children.
She, props to that actress, though. I looked her up. Her name's Catherine Parker. She played like crazy, like so well. And it wasn't even like, I mean, it was over the top at times, but the thing that got me was just like the rhythm of her voice.
Yes.
And like the way that she said her words. I'm like, oh, something's not right.
Right.
And the fact that you can tell that by like her cadence and her tone, like she was, and like with the 20s lingo was like so, just like something I've never seen before.
Yes, agreed. Completely agreed. And I also feel like that just added to the creepiness level of her character. And it just added to the fact that when Clara is telling Steve this whole story about when he finds the, the vanity, and he sees her picture and she's like, oh, she was insane. And then we meet her. She's insane.
She is.
But I like that it's not, like, from an actor's standpoint, it's not like crazy, overly top. Like, I'm smiling and my eyes are wide and saying, no, it's like she completely sounds normal, except for what she's saying is crazy.
Yeah,
But
but
believes
she
it.
is convincing.
Yes.
Like, you can see why Olivia would be convinced because she's like, they're not safe out there.
Yes.
Like, this is the only way to make them safe. You're like, well, okay, then. I guess you're probably right, you know?
It's, I like how they, if I was in Olivia's shoes, the only way that I could believe this is if you talk about my kids. Because clearly she's so passionate about her children and she would do anything for them.
It's like her Achilles heel.
Right. And they know that.
Yeah.
The Hill House picks out your weakness and it goes for it. And unfortunately, it was Nell and Luke that were her weakness. And that's who they haunt her with. My question for you is, why didn't they pick Theo, Shirley, and Steve to haunt her with? You notice that it's just Nell and it's just Luke, the two youngest. And that's what I'm thinking that it is, the babies.
Yeah, I think definitely the babies has something to do with it. And we kind of talked about how they are very sensitive. Like, so it's like she sort of relates to them on that sort of level and maybe sees some of herself sort of reflected in them just because of that. So, but I think the babies just has something to do with it too because they're the youngest. And it's like you feel like you have to protect them the most.
Yeah, agreed. And then going back to Clara and Olivia, when Claire is telling her as she's sitting in that very odd, like, placed room, if you will. It's not in the red room. We know that. It's somewhere else in the house, but we haven't seen it before this scene. And she's telling her, listen to your gut, protect your children. And I feel like Mrs. Dudley meant it in a different way, but she took it as what Poppy was saying. So it's like you're listening to this woman, and then this woman is telling you to protect them But she didn't necessarily mean killing them. She just meant protecting them like a normal mother would.
Yeah, that's like a really, like, sort of the dramatic irony of it all.
Yeah.
It's like she says one thing and she takes it the completely wrong way. It's like, no, not like that, though.
Right. And then there's even more foreshadowing because she tells her about her child, but she never mentions her name.
No, and it's so frustrating.
I know. And you're like, okay. And because by this point, we're still like, oh, Abigail's just an imaginary friend of Luke's. So she doesn't tell us her kid's name. We know that she has a child, but she's just never allowed to set foot in Hill House. So once she says that, I resign myself to the fact that, oh, we're never going to see her. So fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And while I liked that storyline, I was like, I don't know that I like completely buy it.
Yes.
Just because it's like, if you spend this much time with each other, like, her name's gonna come up.
That's what I mean. And if you're talking about your daughter, you don't just say my daughter. You never say her
My
name.
little one. Stop. You know her name.
It's a little unbelievable, but I kind of liked it. Like the writers definitely kept us in suspense about that, and it was definitely a twist in the end.
For sure.
We find Abigail wants to also have a sleepover after Olivia leaves the house. She goes to her sister's house because she's like, I can't take it anymore, and she needs a break. And then Abigail is having a sleepover, and this is when we're introduced back to the Red Room. And Abigail drinks whatever it is Olivia gives them, which we know is rat poison because we see it on the thing. Shirley sees it on the thing. She goes, gets Hugh. And Abigail dies.
Yep.
I didn't expect that because up until that point, I still thought that Abigail was imaginary.
Yes.
So I thought she was going to drink it and then like disappear. Nothing was going to happen. And then maybe the other two kids were going to like almost drink it or whatever. Well, I mean, they almost did, but I didn't think she was going to die. I thought she was imaginary still.
Yeah, me too. I thought, or that she was already dead. So it's like, oh, well, it's not going to affect her. But then she's alive. Like, she was alive the whole time, but not to us viewers. Like,
Yeah.
you know, not to what we were led to believe. It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Like,
Oh, no.
Yikes.
Yeah. And then we see that, you know, Hugh comes in and he like takes the kid, like obviously takes Luke and Nell out. And then Poppy is once again haunting Olivia. And she says to Olivia that Hugh is taking the kids to their deaths.
Yep.
And she goes upstairs, she finds Abigail's body, and she has this moment, and I just want to talk about it very quickly. She has this moment of, I want to say clarity, because she realizes what she did. And I think in that moment, she wanted to take it back, but then freaking Poppy comes right back in and says, you know, it's just a dream. You have to wake up now. And that's when she kills herself.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was because of what Poppy was saying or if it was a culmination of, okay, what Poppy had just said, like, you know, you have to wake yourself up, you know, practice what you preach. Or if, and because she literally just killed a child.
Like the guilt was like just too much.
What do you think?
I think it could, in a weird way, be both. I agree with you. Like, be like, oh my gosh, this is like too terrible to even imagine. I got to put a stop to it. Or that, but I don't think it was that final moment of clarity because we get her still believing everything, or her just maybe choosing to believe it at that moment.
Yeah,
because
maybe
the reality is too much.
I agree with you. And then we end that episode with this flashback, and it's beautiful. Like Hill House just tugs at your heartstrings, and we're getting into episode 10. And if you want to talk about tugging at heartstrings, episode 10 is full of them. But I just want to wrap up episode 9 with, you know, we get a flashback of when the kids and everybody gets to the house, the first day that they're in the house. And the kids want to go pick out their rooms. And, you know, Olivia says, you guys go on without me. And Hugh goes, how could we?
Oh my gosh. I rewatched this episode right before we were doing this.
Yeah.
And I literally tweeted, I was like, the devil works hard, but Mike Flanagan works harder. Because you have Olivia's death, and then you have that beautiful moment where everyone's happy and healthy. I'm like,
but like,
that's crushing.
It's crushing. And it's like how Hugh and Olivia are so tied together that one literally can't live without the other.
Yeah.
And he says it in episode 10, if it wasn't for her, he would have killed himself when he found her.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so powerful to find a love like that.
It's just the fact that they had that flashback right after that, just tacked onto the end there, makes it like that much, because it's bittersweet because like, oh, they were so happy, but it's like, look at all that they've lost because of this damn house.
I agree. I completely agree with you. I want to get into episode 10, but before we do that, Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I sure do. Hey, AfterBuzzers, our network produces after shows for nearly all of your favorite TV shows. From dramas, reality TV, sci-fi, and more, there is no network that works harder to serve television fans. But we need your help. We're asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. By subscribing to our channel, YouTube will suggest content that is tailor-made for you, and you'll help AfterBuzz continue to grow. And if you're worried about pesky notifications, don't be, because they are completely optional. So hit that subscribe button now for this channel, and check out our other AfterBuzz YouTube channels as well. Let us know you did so in the comments, and we will thank you guys on air. Not for this show, because it's the last one, unfortunately, but we will be thankful, I promise.
Yes.
But for now, thanks for being the best fans and for helping us be the ESPN of TV Talk. But still make sure to leave comments, because I want to hear what you guys thought of this one, of all of them.
Right, especially our finale episode.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to, and like I said, we have a lot of questions for you guys in the end. We have so much more coming up. But we do want to thank you guys for watching our show and for being fans of AfterBuzz, because we couldn't do the show without you guys, and we love you guys. If you're listening to us on iTunes or Spotify, give us a thumbs up. I mean, give us a 5-star rating. If you're watching us or listening to us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment, and make sure you tweet at us. We'll give you our Twitters at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And make sure you follow at AfterBuzz TV on Twitter as well. Rolling on into episode 10, what I loved about episode 10 is that the Red Room was revealed about what it was. Now, we kind of got a hint about what it was with Steve and Hugh in the car, when Hugh was telling him, there is no treehouse. That was a fake room. But then we also find this opening scene with Theo in the dance room. And we find out that not only was it Theo's dance room, but it was Olivia's reading room, and it was, the treehouse like we covered. It was the game room for Steve. It was symbolic. It played a different part for every person in that house except for Hugh.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting.
I do too, because it's a sort of wish fulfillment. And I just loved that little montage of when we were seeing everyone like in the room doing their different stuff, and that window is just right there, because it's like, because they gave us it all along.
Yeah.
Like all along we could have known, but it's just like they integrated it so sneaky.
Right. And the way that they did Theo in the Red Room with Shirley and Nell at the and we go back to the episode. Sorry, I'm jumping around, guys. I'm just very excited. I thought that it was a ghost the whole time.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's what they led you to believe.
Of course, but it was Theo. And I just thought the way that they handled the Red Room was brilliant. Like they made it this ominous kind of, I don't know, being, if you will. Like it's an actual thing. Like it's not just a room. It manifests itself in what you want to see to fool you.
Yeah.
And and it was the tea party room. I just thought that the way that they revealed the Red Room was brilliant. I mean, like I said, it was just this ominous thing, and the payoff for it, like you're like, what is it? Why isn't the door opening? And then when they open the door, you're like, oh, that's why.
I love that it made sense.
Yes.
Because I feel like they could have made it like thrown in some weird thing at the end.
And it could have been really corny.
Yeah, and it wasn't like just some, it's where all the monsters live. It's like, it was so like interesting.
Yes.
And so unexpected, but that worked so perfectly.
Agreed. And we come back to everybody arriving at Hill House. And that opening shot with Hugh and Steve going into the house, just haunting. I was like, oh, it was like going into war, if you will. It was like them literally battling this house, and they have to go into it. And what I loved about it was that as children, the Red Room, manifested itself on what they needed at the time, or what it thought that they needed, or what they needed. And as adults, it gave them these horrific nightmares to kind of fool them. And I just want to go back to what Poppy said in the last episode when she talked about these screaming Mimis. I loved that the Red Room gave each and every Crane child a screaming Mimi.
It's so personalized.
Yes. And I just want to break them down really quick.
Yeah.
Because Steve is haunted by Lee. And the Red Room gave him what he wanted. It was like, Lee's pregnant and he's working on the second novel, and they're in the house and they're happy and all this stuff. But that's not the case. Did that throw you off?
It did. I was like, wait, where are we? Like in space and time? Is this a flashback?
Yes.
Is this sort of a flash forward? And then when obviously she started like really saying her monologue, like, you're an eater, you're a plastic parasite. I was like, this is not real life. Because it's like the voices just like don't match. And so I think that the fact that they gave us that little like hint of something before she actually starts turning,
Yes.
you know, gray and the baby popping out of her stomach. Like,
Oof.
I liked that kind of really slow shift into being like, this is a nightmare.
Yes. Yeah. I love that it's haunting them in different ways. Like, it's haunting Steve because he could never get her pregnant. It's like your worst fear. It's like you could never get her pregnant, so you lost her. And now it's haunting him and trying to trick him into believing that it actually happened. And now with Shirley, it haunts her with the affair that she had.
Yeah.
And we've been seeing this guy throughout the season, and we didn't know what was going on with him. And I'm going to be honest, I thought it was Steve at first, that she saw him with a glass, and I was like, why is she haunted by Steve? She knows who Steve is. But then I realized, oh, it's just a complete stranger. I don't know who this guy is. And then we find out that it was this guy that she had an affair with. And we realized that Shirley's not the perfect person that we thought she was.
I found hers, maybe I'm just biased because I like am one of the few who really, really like Shirley, but I thought hers was like the most compelling for me in a way.
Okay.
Just because we really we've seen her faults obviously, but not like the big one, so to speak. You know what I mean? And seeing it all sort of start unfolding, and I was like, oh, this is like maybe kind of sweet. Like, you know, maybe they'll just... No, she, of course, you know, went for it all the way. And then
Of course.
when he sort of confronted her about, like, that's the ring is what sold you because we both had the same amount of, like, things to lose, I was like, oh, the writing was just so great in that one.
So great. And I completely agree with you. And I like that they gave us Shirley's vulnerability. Because up until this point, she's been very like, I have it all together. I'm perfect and all this stuff. And they're like, oh, no, wait, no, you're not. Now I want to get into Theo's, too. Because Theo's was very interesting as well. She had that moment with her... girlfriend. I want to say girlfriend, but friend, that's a girl that she's having sex with. And her whole thing was like she's not able to feel anything, but she can't remember why. And then she starts getting sucked into the bed, and that's when you realize that Theo's being haunted by the fact that she wouldn't be able to feel things because I think honestly deep down she loves that part about herself.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And it connects, I think, back with when she touched Nell.
Yes.
And
yes.
that was just the most horrifying thing that she's ever felt.
Agreed. And then we get into Luke's haunting, and Luke is haunted by Joey, obviously, and clearly relapsing and overdosing again. What did you think of that?
That was so hard to watch.
Yeah.
And I forget if so when we had Olivia in the room with young Nell and
Yes.
young Luke, where he's like, and I put poison in my body and all this stuff, and I was like, oh wow, that's what he was saying the whole time. And I don't know, it took me a while to sort of get that. I think that it really was like literally he was doing the things he
was like
had told her that he was
prophesying.
gonna do. So I thought that was super jarring and super graphic and just so hard to watch.
Yeah, and then we see Joey and how, you know, the needle just magically appears in his arm, and then it bounces right back to the, I don't want to say the present, but the not reality.
Yeah.
And we see Steve trying to resuscitate Luke because he's essentially just overdosed, and they're in the red room, and now all of the children can't get out. What I loved about each of their hauntings is that Nell was there to rescue them and pull them out. And I thought that was so symbolic because it's like, even though in death, she could still be there for them. And we see her come back. And it's in these moments that we're all just sobs on the floor. We're just little puddles on the floor. And she talks about confetti. And we have these like, you know, I don't want to say... confessions, I want to say, from everybody and kind of their final moments with her because they realize that, you know, they need closure. And I think I love this moment because every single one of them gets closure with Nell.
Yeah.
And they can put their guilt aside, they can put their anger aside, and just realize that they loved each other, and that's really, at the end of the day, what it was about.
Yeah, and then, you know, I forget which episode it was, but I think that there was a quote that was like, Nell is the glue that holds this entire family together, and I think that was like never more clear than right here. And I think that people kind of wrote her off as like, you know, the sort of like maybe weakest one, and she's not. Like, she's obviously the strongest. Like, she's going against what Olivia is saying and pulling, you know, Luke back and snapping everyone out of it and kind of just like being the caretaker of everyone. And I thought that was like such a cool role to see her in.
Yeah, she took care of them in death, and I love that when she says, "You love me completely." And she tells Steve nothing would have changed what happened.
Yeah.
And I love that because people are often haunted by what they could have changed, all the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. And I love that she says that line because it kind of just stomps that out. It's like you don't spend time thinking about what you could have changed. This is how it happened. It was going to happen this way anyway.
And it's true, because that's been set up since she was like a
Literally.
child with the vent neck lady. Like, if they would have answered the phone, it just would have probably prolonged it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then we get into Hugh, and Hugh is having his own battle outside of the Red Room with Poppy and Olivia, and that's where my quote at the beginning of this episode comes in. And I love this moment between him and Olivia, because Olivia obviously has her standpoint, and they're essentially just debating on, hey, who's right? And Olivia says, you took them away from me. You put them in danger. This was your fault. And Hugh is sitting there saying, if you don't let them out, they'll never live. And I love the line when she says, nothing bad will ever happen to them.
Nothing good will either.
I thought that was brilliant.
I did too. I wrote that one down because I thought that was just so concise, but just balls up every debate in this show pretty much.
Exactly. And I love the fact that we get to this point where Hugh promises her something and we don't necessarily know what it is. Did you have an inkling that he would sacrifice himself for the children?
I mean, I don't know. I didn't really even think about that when it was happening, but then when she said, I'm gonna be alone again, he's like, can't do that.
Yeah.
Can't have that.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was really beautiful.
I think it was definitely major foreshadowing when he says, if it wasn't for the children, I would have laid down with you.
In retrospect, yeah.
And I feel like now that they're all grown and can take care of themselves, he was prepared to do that. Obviously, he wouldn't have if they weren't stuck in the Red Room, but because he needed to rescue them, he lays down his life for them. And I loved in the end where we didn't really realize what was going on. And Steve, when and Steve are carrying Luke out, Steve sees him on the floor. He sees his body on the floor, but nobody else does. And then we find that they have to go back into the house, and that's when we realize that, we get this flashback of what Steve saw and all this other stuff. And I just thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
With the flashback characters and the present day characters all in one, I was like, it just looked so cool to be filmed too, because it was these two worlds combining,
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
I loved the ending. I know that there was a lot of people who didn't like the ending. A lot of people said that it was too nice and too put a bow on it. But I don't understand how can anybody say that when, Hugh literally died, Nell is dead, the mom is dead, the little girl Abigail is dead, the Dudleys just want to keep the house up so they can go and visit her. It's what did you think of the ending?
I mean, I think it was a happy ending in a way, but in a way that was dark enough to fit the tone of the show without being sugary sweet happily ever after. It was very satisfying, and no, it wasn't the major depressive tragedy, but it was still definitely a tragedy.
Yes.
It was so sad, but they found the happiness in the sad, I think.
Yes, I agree with you. I love the ending. I was one of those people that actually loved it. I want to get into our special segment very quickly, our quiz segment. It is, which minor character are you in The Haunting of Hill House? Which character did you get?
I got Mrs. Dudley, and it's based on a character that you get to design yourself, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, we have the quiz up now, guys. These are some of the questions there. It's a very fun quiz. Taylor got Mrs. Dudley. Coincidentally, I got Mr. Dudley.
Hey.
And once you take the quiz, you can find out the description and everything like that. But I did love this quiz as well.
It was really fun.
And then that just brings us into our news and gossip. We've got a few things of news and gossip to share with you, and then we will wrap up.
AfterBuzz TV News.
Okay, so the first piece of news is very exciting and very fresh. So Mike Flanagan, who obviously showrunner of this, creator of this, wrote, directed, did all of the things on this essentially. He is married to Kate Siegel, who played Theo. So they had their baby today.
Yes.
And guess what they named her?
Shut up.
They named her Theodora.
No.
Isabel Irene.
Oh my God.
Is that not the sweetest thing in the whole world?
That's the best thing ever. I love
Theo
that.
had a little Theo.
I love Theo had a little thing. I do love that name though. I don't know why anybody would name their child Theodora.
I think that's so cool of them though.
So beautiful.
I love it.
So great.
And then also, so Violet McGraw, who plays little tiny Nell, and Carla Gugino, who obviously plays Olivia, are actually going to be starring in another show together called Jet. Carla is going to be playing a fresh out of prison world-class thief who is forced back into doing what she does best by dangerous and eccentric criminals determined to exploit her skills for their own ends. So, like, she's going to be pretty badass, I think.
Nice.
And we're going to get to see them on screen together again.
That'll be great.
And a little bonus, just because I saw this on Twitter yesterday, someone posted a screen cap, and I thought it was so cute. But Julian Hilliard, who played little tiny Luke, posted this picture of Carla Gugino and Violet and him on the couch.
Yeah.
And it was really sweet because Violet, the little girl, commented that she actually fell asleep in this scene.
Oh.
Which I thought was like just so pure.
Just
and so
method
adorable.
acting.
Yeah. This is where I fell asleep for real. I did that a lot. Beautiful shot.
That's so great.
Adorable.
It's so great. It looks like a Christmas card.
Yeah, it really does. I was just like, that's really just tugged at my heartstrings.
I agreed. It's beautiful.
So yeah, that's all the news I have.
Yeah? Did you want to tell anybody about this new thing that you got?
Oh yes, guys. So there's this thing called Redbubble. I'm not even doing like a advertisement for this. I just really love this website. But it's where artists just kind of submit their own work and can sell it. And there's a lot of fandom type things. So there's a cup that I got on Cyber Monday. It says, "The rest is confetti," and it has a picture of a mug on another mug with stars like flying out of
full
it.
of stars.
So it's my little...
I think the stars are flying into it, not out of it.
Oh, yes, that's
Yes.
right. Be optimistic there. But it's really cool, and yeah, just like type in "Haunting of Hill House" on Redbubble, and it's sure to come up. But I think it's fun that it's like a little mug on a little mug.
Yeah.
It's my cup of stars, you guys.
I love it. I love it. You guys, if you want some cool paraphernalia like that, go to redbubble.com.
Yeah.
Taylor is probably going to be going broke because she's going to buy all this stuff on Redbubble.
I was like Cyber Monday treating myself. to
Yes.
this.
That is our conclusion of part 4, episodes 9 and 10 of Haunting of Hill House. It has been a pleasure doing this show for you guys. It has been a pleasure working with you, Taylor.
You too.
I loved this show. I'm very excited for season 2.
Me too.
I don't know what they're going to do. We can't even do predictions right now because we're running out of time. But make sure you tweet at us and we will tell you our predictions. Where can our fans find you?
Yes, you guys can find me on Twitter at @alphabet_Ann and on Instagram at Taylor_Gates_. I also do a bunch of other after shows. I do Scientology in the Aftermath tomorrow, Law & Order SVU, and Legacies.
Yep, I am Timothy Michael. You can find me everywhere at I am Timothy Mike. I do the Survivor after show on Wednesday nights. So if you're a Survivor fan, you don't have to say goodbye to our faces. Go and see us on other AfterBuzz shows. But for now, we do have to say goodbye to you and the Haunting of Hill House. Thank you guys.
Bye!
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.